Welcome back to Patreon. This is the fourth video. We're going to be doing sanmai, which means, I believe it means 3 layers, and it's a Japanese technique. This is stainless sanmai. I've got 80 CRV2 in the core and 416 stainless on the outside, and I've gotten a lot of requests for that video, so I'm going to go ahead and do that this time. This is a knife that I forged this week, and it's basically you just forge out the billet and you grind it out because you don't want to do a lot of forging on sanmai. And if you do, you have to be very careful with it, and we can go over all that in a little bit. But basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the core steel, which is 80 CRV2 and 416 stainless. We're going to clean the inside of the 416 so that it's going to weld up really nicely. So we're going to clean it on my grinder and then clean both sides of the core material, and then we'll weld it all the way around on all the seams, make sure there's no air going to get in there and contaminate the weld, and then we will put a handle on it and get it hot and weld it up. Pretty simple. You only need about 3 inches for a size knife like this, but if you want a nice big knife like this one, you're going to need probably about 6 inches or something like that. And I'm using, I think it's 1.25 inches by 1/4 inch. I get this 416 stainless at Atlantic Stainless, and then this is 80 CRV2 from New Jersey Steel Band. So, okay, so this is the step process for just prepping the billet. So you're not going to weld with these steps, but this is just to prep them. First thing you're going to do is cut for a billet about this size. To be able to do a knife about this size, you want to do 3-inch pieces of 1/4 inch stainless, so 2 3-inch pieces, and then 1 3-inch piece of this core material, which is, you know, whatever you want to use, 1095, 52-100, in this case 80 CRV2, and it's 1.25 inches by 1/4 inch, so that's what will make a knife about that size. The next step is to clean all contact points and surfaces that will be welded. So you got to clean the inside of this steel here and both sides of the core material, and weld all seams up so no contaminants can get in. So you're going to weld it all the way around the billet and then weld the handle on. But then you're going to start your forge up and stick the billet in, but that's just to get the billet prepped. Okay, so when you grind these, you want to make sure you don't touch and get nasty fingerprints all over the inside of your billet. You just want to be overcautious with the inside of your billet. You don't want any contaminants in there. So you want to get it as clean as possible. So don't touch it with your hands. Don't let any grain, don't let any grit stay on it from the grinder. This is 36 grit, so it tends to leave things on it. So you want to inspect it, make sure. Wear gloves, when you're handling it, and even if you have it, take a compressor and just blow air through it to make sure there's no dust or anything in there before you weld it all up. got it in the forge, it's heating up. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the press, 50-ton press over here. We're going to squeeze it in the flat dies. Then we're going to take it quickly over to the power hammer. And hit it with the power hammer and draw it out. And then we will use the drawing dies to pinch it and create distortion in the layers. And then we will flatten it out completely, draw it out the rest of the way with the power hammer, and then flatten it with the press. So you'll know when the billet is up to heat when you look into the forge and see that white heat, just under white heat, it's just past orange into white, and the billet is sort of blending in with the forge, and with the surrounding hot spot anyway, depending on what your forge is. You can close the whole thing off and it can be all white, and if you put it in there and it gets, you know, if it's still dark, then it's not ready. It needs to get a little bit hotter. So you need the color to sort of blend in. It needs to be all just above orange heat into white. You've got it to the right thickness and everything, you want to take it under the power hammer and lightly tap the sides. Not really hard, but lightly tap them so all the oxide breaks loose and all you're left with is really, really fine scale. Okay, so I have cut off the billet. It's all welded up, and with a billet this size, I would normally take a template like this, which is whatever material you want to use to make your template. I use nickel silver here. It's just what I have, and you could use mild steel or whatever you want, and just scribe the lines and grind it out. And that's all you would normally have to do. If you want to forge it out, you can grind off the welds on the outside all the way around, make sure it's all clean, sand my billet, and then forge out the blade profile from there. So you can do that, but when you forge sand my, you really want it to be decently hot, you know, above 1800, because the profile of the blade, when you forge it out, it will be it'll start to come apart because it's a very fragile weld. It's not going to come apart on its own. It's not going to come apart if I just grind it. It's not going to fall apart. But if I forge it at a low temperature, it will split because those welds aren't going to hold under that much pressure. You want to make sure that you keep it up to temperature, and when you do forge it to shape, it's just over the profile that you want it to be. So you grind the profile in a little bit all the way around, just so that you get rid of any sort of delamination. That's a quick look at how I do my sanmai, or laminated steel, whatever you want to call it. This is, again, 416 stainless steel and 80 CRV2. You can also use 1095 or whatever core you want to do, you can do it. This is a really cool technique because it creates a nice protective layer on the outside and puts a really nice high carbon steel in the center. I mean, I know that I used a lot of power tools, and that's because it kind of needs it. Stainless, it needs a lot of pressure. It really needs a lot of pressure to work well. So if you don't have enough pressure, it will delaminate and it just won't weld properly. It's best if you have a power hammer or press to do this. And you can try by hand, but I've never seen anybody do it by hand, and I've never done it by hand. So you can either forge this out after you've ground all the welds off, or you can grind it all to shape. Alright, thanks so much guys for watching, and thanks so much for subscribing to Patreon. I really appreciate you guys. I hope I helped with this video. You guys can profile it, forge it, whatever you want to do, but that's it for this video. It's all welded up really nicely. I can do another video later if you want of me making a knife out of this. Just let me know. But I'll see you guys on the next video. Give me suggestions on what you guys want to see. Thanks.